Hello. Right. I thought I'd do a bit of an update on the kind of goings on of Google Discover at this time to help get an understanding of how the platform's currently working, look at where it's heading, what it means, and why some publishers are seeing a drop off of sorts. The starting point, I think, is to look at the mechanics of Discover, to consider how it works. And I think you can rank it from a sort of eligibility level, which is a very nuts and bolts. Can your site be indexed in search? Search and Discover intrinsically linked. Are you policy compliant? Are you going against any of Google's obvious and existing policies? Typically, it's things like gambling, not safe for work style content. And do you have a valid image? 1200 pixels wide, max image preview larger, the standards. Then there's a classification layer. Google reads the entities in the topic, uses its understanding of news and content freshness and topics that are currently trending, matches that to cohorts or individuals. And if those individuals are satisfied with the content, then it will be pushed out further to their cohort. Discover runs, dozens, if not hundreds, of A/B tests all at one time. So it's very rarely that anybody sees the same Discover feed. Then there's obviously a ranking. So this is based on, I suppose, your predicted CTR is based on where you rank in the Discover feed. If you outperform that, there'll be like a Bayesian predictive type click-through rate formula. If you outperform that, your content will be boosted up the feed generally. And then there's decaying angle, freshness boosts, fresh content is boosted. But as that fresh content starts to die off and you started to saturate that cohort, the content fades and renews. That's very normal, right? So it's worth noting and understanding that the cohort of users are the virality engine. You satisfy a single user of that cohort, it will go to more users and more users and more users until you saturate that cohort and then moved into another adjacent one that is likely to also be interested in the content. Also worth noting, it's a push channel, not a pull channel. It is not directly people searching. And according to Press Gazette data, it's estimated at it's a fraction of Google's revenue, right? So it gets very little scrutiny, which is worth knowing. And I think it's also really, really worth knowing that it is becoming less and less of a publisher first surface. So Google is really making an effort to reallocate feed and real estate towards creators, social platforms, and video. If you look at recent Newsdash data of, I think, December 2025, the largest domains to discover are YouTube. X has absolutely flown up the rankings and is ahead of virtually every newsroom in the US. In the UK, it also became the number one discovered domain, according to Press Gazette and Nicola. And Google's also said it's making Discover easier to find, follow, and engage with creators because we know that people like people. Google know this, they're not stupid as well. And you can see on the right-hand side a generative AI summary that bundles not just a story together, but publishers and their stories together. So, here there were 11 or more publishers that have been bundled together. So it's very, very difficult or becoming more and more difficult to get ahead in the platform. And this AI layer doesn't stop there. So Google has started replacing publisher links with AI written summaries that are built to keep users inside their own ecosystem. And according to some excellent data from Marfil, 51% of the Discover feed is now AI summaries. This was in the US, Brazil, and Mexico, and really is engineered to promote YouTube. And this is exactly how Google behaves in search, where they want to keep you in their platforms. It is much more valuable for them to do so. 77% of these AI summaries send a click to YouTube, not the publisher they're based on, again in the US. And after you go to 20 posts or more, or after position 20, they're so AI summary dominant, and they really dominate the deeper feed. So whilst you may have got 50, 60, 70 articles in Discover to flow through, after you get through the top 20, there are less and less available. So whilst these AI posts do cite publishers, the call to action is predominantly a YouTube play because Google owns YouTube. And in lots of cases, publishers see dramatic drop-offs, and this is one of the questions you get asked about Discover all the time. It's like, how can we avoid these huge, huge drop-offs in Discover traffic? And part of that is just understanding how Discover works. Discover is so based around a few articles going viral. So for some very simple numbers, you might have 3 articles a month do 1 million clicks each. Unlikely, but it could happen. The rest of your content may do 10, 20, 30,000 clicks. And that is just the nature of virality and stories that really catch on and go through cohorts of people. The next month you might only get 1 of those or none. And so suddenly you lose a significant proportion. So it's worth knowing that Discover is volatile, but its volatility may be caused by just a few articles. But it's also worth knowing the feed is being reallocated, as we've discussed. Social and video platforms are taking the space. X is flooding the feed. AI summaries are pushing links down. And in Google's most strongest signal yet, they have shown us that social presence really matters, as you can now check how your social performance or how many clicks your YouTube content gets through search experiences in Search Console. So they are giving us a very, very clear indication that your online presence matters more than ever. This is entity understanding, disambiguation in the modern day internet, all about trust. But there are things you can do to mitigate the chances that your content will drop off in Discover, should you be lucky enough to get there and do so well. If you are going down the click chasing journalism route, like many publishers have done for a long time, that has a very, very short shelf life. The February 2026 update has really tried to put a dampener on that. AI spun duplicate articles, which lots of companies still do, published across dozens of own sites, have seen huge, huge losses in recent times, and that will obviously continue. Discover is very engagement led, as all of search is. They have 13 months of user data in nav boost through click data, the last longest click, the best click, worst click. They have really good on-site behavior. They have Chrome. This isn't just about search. This is about signals from everywhere. So heavy revenue first ad experiences get penalized. If you have weak technical SEO, again, programmatic SEO, but if your core web vitals are poor, if your server response time is, the gold standard is, I think, around 200 milliseconds. Pretty much nobody gets there. 600 milliseconds or below is broadly fine. Really worth checking your indexation report in Search Console. And if you're straying outside of your lane content-wise, which so many big sites have done over the years, if you chase content outside of your expertise, you might get short-term spikes. Good examples will be sites that start doing a lot more health content or content in your money, your life space, may get a short-term boost from doing that. But if you keep going further down that route, you dilute what your site is really about, and that becomes a huge problem. And eventually you get hammered by some kind of update. It's very difficult to regain control and composure. If you also have no wider ecosystem presence as well, this is something that search is, frankly, search everywhere optimization at this point, where you do need to have a presence and an understanding of how YouTube works, how X works, and your presence on there, and making sure that you are interacting with the relevant community. Because Google is making an effort to counter clickbait in Discover. You can see in this image on the right hand side, if you have been going after this click chasing type content, and you've been using the classic Discover type headlines, which is, you won't believe what X does, or how to live a long life, just this one ingredient will do that for you. What they're doing is taking body copy instead of headlines. So they are making an effort to make this platform less clickbaity. And so what this means for you as a publisher or an SEO, I think the key thing with Discover is you can't let Discover shape your editorial strategy. Discover is seductive. You can get such huge click traffic from Discover, and for some publishers it's 70 or 80% more, 70-80% of their total traffic. It's enormous, but if an algorithm wipes you out, you're in a really, really difficult position. So what you want to do is treat Discover broadly as bonus traffic while still optimizing effectively for it. I think there's sort of 5 or 6 key things. Build with journalists and creators. People love people. People love video, which is why you need multimedia content. But people want to see people's faces. They want to see things about real people, not just brands. So you need to build people within your own publisher, and you need creative partnerships. You need to understand what your audience cares about and give it to them in a format that will work for them. The search everywhere optimization side of things, build a video footprint, create multimedia content, make a real effort in the ecosystem to build your profile so you increase trust. Google likes brands because people like brands. People like brands, sorry. So it's really, really important that you take that into account. You have to connect the dots technically, structured data, connect your authors, understand exactly who your site is, use same as properties for authors' Wikipedia pages. Your entity optimization really, really matters at this point. Accuracy is vital. Obviously, you want to have an incredibly engaging site experience. So optimizing for engagement signals and depth. So showcase your content depth, not breadth. If you can, when people are coming through Discover, you want to keep people on site. And for most users that come through Discover, you don't necessarily know what they care about at this time, except for the article that they're on. And uniqueness. Like, uniqueness works everywhere, across all interfaces, and rightly so. This is the version of non-commodity content that we all know and love at this point in SEO. And what you really, really want from uniqueness is, you don't need the whole page to be completely unique. But what you do need is sort of 10% of it to have some kind of unique data or unique story, or something that's very difficult to replicate. Google tracks content effort as a legitimate a legitimate scoring system in its algorithm. We know this for a fact, so it does work, it does matter. And off the back of this, building first party data, building newsletters, you have to really make an effort to capture the data and people that come through Discover, because if you don't, you're just going to be as reliant on this traffic as you always were. So whilst Discover traffic tends to be lower quality, the personalization engine that comes with it does mean that you will get a small percentage of people that actually are very engaged with your site and like your brand. So I think these are all really important things to consider for Discover. My final top tip, which I think is the most important one, or certainly one of the most important ones, is Google and algorithms always apply some kind of Bayesian type predictive formula. So each page that you have, let's say at a subfolder level, will have an expected engagement score. So let's say it'll get 10 clicks, 2 shares, 3 link clicks on page, however that's going to be worked out in its first hour. What you want to do is to make sure it outperforms that. You can't do that for every piece of content, but what you want to do is to understand which of your pieces of content are most likely to go viral based on the headline, the story, the uniqueness of the information, the speed you get it out there, and your understanding of what works well for Discover for you on site. And make sure you push that story across your homepage, share it on socials, get your team and people within the company to share it. It's about making an effort these days, and unfortunately for lots of us, traditional SEO just isn't enough anymore. So Discover can still be really useful. I just think it's not something you want to be completely reliant on. Anyway, that's it. I hope that was useful. Next time.